Good night and welcome to Mindful Live 347. I'm your host Nathan Springer. Thank you for being here. It is the 16th of February in the year 2024. Welcome all. What we're talking about, what are we discussing this evening? At least at the beginning, what we're starting off discussing this evening is that oil spill over in Tobago. The oil spill that is making global news. Oh, Matic boss. Mr. Matic, what's that Matic you speak of that you are the boss of? Wagwan, sir, wagwan. So once you're on the inside, make sure you hit that like button, double tap the screen over there on TikTok. That's how you hit the like button there. If ever you were wondering, you hit that screen 2 times, pop, pop, as quick as possible. Then you hit it again and 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 keep going and get those likes piling up. That's how we tell our algorithmic overlords, those machines that are already running us. We tell them this is good stuff and send out the notification. Did they find out who owned it? No, apparently not yet. Well, that seems like a technical question, and we're going to get into some of that. The truth is, some of this, we got into some of this last night, but we're going to get into it again because we unfortunately, the producer unfortunately did not hit the stream button over on YouTube. So you may have missed the stream over there if you aren't looking for this on YouTube. As usual, the stream is live on YouTube. Nathan Springer over there. Head over and subscribe if you are not yet subscribed. Let's dive into the article. Tobago excuse me. Tobago oil spill mystery deepens as tugboat vanishes. The mystery surrounding the oil spill in Tobago deepened on February 14th when it was revealed that the Gulf Stream, which was found overturned in the sea 200 meters off the coast of the Cove Industrial Park on February 7th, was one of 2 vessels involved in the incident. But the whereabouts of the other vessel, a tugboat identified as Solo Creed, remains unknown. And now I will reiterate, I was it's not that I'm saying I'm unique in this matter per se, but just to me the obviousness of this, I was pointing out, where was the crew? I was asking this since this news broke. If this vessel was moving across the ocean, it was not a ghost ship, unless it was, but it doesn't seem like it was a ghost ship, unless ghosts have some kind of use for oil. It would have had to have had a crew manning the vessel. And I kept saying since I first heard this, why is there not one of 2 things going on? Either one, a manhunt on for whoever was the owner, whoever was the crew manning this vessel, you're trying to find them because they ran it aground in your waters, or some kind of rescue mission. Or some kind of rescue mission that was supposed to be urgently done. From the moment this was on, it was supposed to be a countrywide urgent search on for either the escaped sailors, or you were supposed to be searching for their bodies, or maybe the survivors. Kevon, you as my witness here, you were in the live quite a few of those days. Early on, I was asking this. I was like, okay, yes, we need to clean up the oil, but where are the men who were moving this boat? And it seemed like no one was very interested in that matter, at least not in the earlies. Good night, aromatic expressions, TT. Ooh, aromatic expressions. What's that? Is that a perfume something? It sounds exquisite. All right, let's mute the YouTube. This country is too lackluster with any sort of investigations, Maurice Collette says. Yeah, you could feel that. You could feel that. Good night, Jackies. I haven't been on the live for a while. Ricardo, Harry, good night, Ricky Dan. Good night, good night, good night. It added the Coast Guard is collaborating with local and regional agencies, including CARICOM Impacts, the Guyana Coast Guard, the Maritime Services Division, and IR Concilium through a consultant to identify the vessels and their owners. The ministry said investigations so far have revealed that the vessels appear to have been bound for Guyana. However, the Guyanese authorities have confirmed that neither vessel arrived as anticipated. Okay. I looked at a news conference with the Guyanese Prime Minister, he is, today, and he seemed rather short of patience for all questions regarding such. And I mean, he seemed like he learned public relations in the same school that Dr. Rowley learned it in. Quite that kind of paternalistic, rude, disrespectful, condescension kind of tone. But beside that, he was making some fair points. This isn't exactly Guyana's business. This isn't exactly Guyana's business. And it isn't exactly Guyana's fault until someone could show how you blame Guyana for this. I don't know what wrong in a runny cakes. I don't know, Gil. Until someone could show how you could blame Guyana for this. Maurice Collett says, where's the crew manifest if the Guyanese authorities were expecting this vessel? Now, that's a good question, Maurice Collett, because that's what I was speaking about last night. If the Guyanese officials said they were expecting this vessel and it did not arrive, which is what it sounds like they were saying there, what vessel were they expecting? What are the details of this vessel that they were expecting? White Leather says, I want to know the tug owners, not the tug operators. Well, getting to know the tug owners would have been much easier if you had the tug owners in custody. Tug operators in custody. You know, if you have a group of 10 sailors all being paid by one marine ABC company, it becomes a lot easier to figure out who the owner is when you have those sailors. But when you don't have the sailors, you don't have the tugboat, you have nothing, it becomes a lot more difficult. Where's the media in all this? This tanker belongs to Venezuela, a sanctioned country, Kathleen Buru says. Well, not exactly. That's not at least the way it seems. Let's head back over to an article we went through last night, but we're going back through again for the benefit maybe of the YouTube link there, and also of those who weren't here getting some info out there. Positive Radiation, I see you on the inside, bro. The guy with the info on this. Identifying the mystery vessel at the site of Trinidad and Tobago's emergency oil spill. On February 7, 2024, a mystery vessel began leaking oil and ran aground on a reef off the coast of Tobago, one of the two main islands of the Caribbean nation of Trinidad and Tobago. Now, this article, blessings from the island where my heart matched the ocean. Now, oh, black heart. This article is from one Bellingcat. Bellingcat is a private investigation group that does investigations all around the world for their own motives. Now, private might be a stretch because the allegations that they are funded, fueled, and supplied by various security agencies around the world, CIA, MI5, MI6, all those guys. So, I don't know for sure all who Bellingcat is connected to, but they do this kind of investigatory work, and they are the ones with this article from February 14. Now, they started this investigation even before. David Bostock says things would have been different if UNC was in power. All hell would have broken loose. If you say so. I mean, that's an opinion. I don't know if I have that much assurance in PNM's management ability versus the UNC's, but okay. Got that mosquito. Kevon says if they know the vessel was coming, the vessel should have an agent. That agent must know who's paying him or them. Good night, Magium. Dive teams and an autonomous submersible have found the name for the vessel, the Gulf Stream, but have been unable to locate an International Maritime Organization registration number that would conclusively identify it. Research by Bellingcat, including volunteers, suggests an explanation. The mystery vessel is an unpowered barge, part of a so-called articulated tug and barge system that did not have a registration number to begin with. After this story was published on February 14th, Trinidad and Tobago's Ministry of National Security announced that it had determined 2 vessels were involved in the oil spill incident. The ministry stated that one of the vessels was a tugboat named Solo Creed that was bound for Guyana from Panama. It identified the other vessel in barge it did not name as the one leaking black oily deposits off the Tobago coast. Now, something suspicious with this. Yeah, you were positive. Bro, who do you think is responsible for the oil spill, knowing that they know the tugboat and barge? Well, they know possibly the name of the tugboat and the name of the barge, but they don't know the owners. Knowing the name is only one step. Who owns the boat is another step. The boat was part of a system where there's a tugboat attached to this barge, and the tugboat functions nearly as the engine, as it were, for this barge, pushing it along, carrying it along. So the barge doesn't, as it would, need to be registered as an individual vessel because the tugboat does that movement for it. What's interesting with this is, according to Bellingcat, they first released this article on the 14th. And then after they released this article, the government of Trinidad and Tobago released their information. Now, my question is, the same question I said last night, is it that the government of Trinidad and Tobago had the belief that they didn't have to tell us all of this information? They were withholding this information from us until an international investigation media group released the information, and then it became urgent for Trinidad and Tobago's government to do it. And something that is an addition inside of that, an accusation by the chief secretary over in the Tobago House of Assembly, an accusation kind of in the form of a question, and some people are angry at the question, but to me the question bears some merit. Farley accuses government of hiding info on oil spill vessel, wants owners of Solo Creed to own up and pay up. We have a lot of questions, and now is the best time to have those questions answered. We need to know the quantity and material you are transporting so we know what we have been dealing with. Augustine emphasized that the THA needs to know the capacity of the vessel. While he thanked the ministry for releasing the vessel's name, Augustine suggested government may not have been forthright with the information it had on the vessel, saying he found it coincidental the information on its identity was made public shortly after he received it. Okay, so what Mr. Farley is saying is he got the information, and within quick time of him getting the information, he saw it released to the public. So he had no head start on this information per se. He got it basically close to when the public got it. I have a question there. Did he get it before Bellingcat released their news piece? Or was it that the international investigative journalists released their piece first, and only after that the fire was lit under the government enough to even inform the chief secretary, who is supposed to be the leader of governing over in Tobago? And that is a fair question for the chief secretary to ask. When did you get this information? When did you start looking for this information? And why am I only getting it now? Very good questions to ask. And if it is that the government found something out ahead, or they were slack in looking for the information, that's important things to note. The WhatsApp message I got last night was that they were carrying 5,000 metric tons of fuel. Is that true? It is all. Sorry. It also said the owner of this vessel is actually one of those trying to purchase the refinery down in Point 14. Is that true? Well, it's not a Point 14 refinery. That refinery, I believe, is in Point Ape. And it's Petrotrin, and I don't know that to be true. I believe the Prime Minister spoke on that. PM, refinery linked to oil spill patently ridiculous. The Prime Minister hinted of a possible escalation of the national response to the oil spill. Dr. Orley also rejected claims by the Chief Secretary about government attempting to cover up what and who may have caused the spill. He made these comments in a statement to the House of Representatives on Friday. Rowley said the means we are handling the situation according to plan, but may require a bit of outside help. He added, however, we have not invoked the declaration of a Tier 3 emergency. Rowley said a multi-pronged local, regional, and international investigations are currently underway to identify the vessels involved in the oil spill and their owners. He vowed that the people responsible for the oil spill will be held accountable. Rowley dismissed claims by Augustine of a cover-up of the spill being linked to an alleged interest in former Petrotrin refinery as patently ridiculous. Okay. Well, if the claim is ridiculous, the claim is ridiculous according to the Prime Minister. I to be very honest with you, I put no merit on the claim about a company that is linked to the sale of Petrotrin. I think that is adding too much info that there's not even a scrap of intelligence about. We don't even need to question if they were going to buy the refinery. But we still have to find out who this is and why it took so long to find them out before that. Heading back to the Bellingcat article. Do you think that it's actually some black market shady business going on? Yes, Shiv, I do. So, Bellingcat, another mosquito gone. Why are Trini and Veni energy ministers convening as of yesterday? Well, I suppose they would speak, and they spoke about this publicly. They were speaking about assistance and working together to work this out. And now, bear in mind, I heard his response positive. Bear in mind that the oil spill right now is drifting into Venezuelan waters also. So, Venezuelan waters may be affected. Grenada is also being affected. So, there being a meeting of the energy ministers in affected territories isn't a super strange thing, really and truly. That makes sense. Because unpowered barges, this is going back to Bellingcat's article, because unpowered barges are regulated differently than self-powered vessels, open source information about them is spottier. However, Bellingcat did identify one barge named the Gulfstream associated with a tugboat named Marlin on the website tugboatinformation.com. According to the site, the Marlin was married to a 449-foot, 60,000 BBL double-hulled barge, the Gulfstream. The tug and the barge operated as part of an articulated tug and barge system, or ATB. The tug is coupled to the rear of the barge in a special notch in the hull. So they have images of this vessel going all through the years from 2008. They have images of this vessel that they are matching to the vessel in Tobago. And the photos that they have of this barge are matching up to the barge that is overturned in Tobago. So it seems like they have it seems like they have a pretty sure, accurate identification on the badge. BBL, I believe that's barrels, 60,000 barrels. While photos from 2008 and 2009 show the Marlin Gulfstream ATB system operating in the United States, records and vessel ownership tracking database EQUASIS show that the Marlin was sold in 2012 and purchased by San Martin Group Limited, a Panamanian company. In 2014, AIS data shows that the vessel began regularly visiting petroleum ports in Venezuela and the Caribbean. Good night, Cloud One. We're getting into the details of the vessel more recently here. From 2014, it started working between Panama, Venezuela, and the Caribbean, transporting oil, it would seem. Petroleum. EQUASIS records only show the sale of the Marlin because unpowered barges are not registered in the same way as mentioned earlier. However, after the sale date, the vessels were also captured by imagery available on Google Earth, which clearly shows that the tug Marlin is still operating with its married barge Gulfstream. Bellingcat followed the Marlin Gulfstream using AIS data and satellite imagery until October 17th, 2020, when it transmitted its last AIS position at the Astanav shipyard in Amway, Venezuela. Satellite imagery shows the barge remained at Astanav for some time. After this point, there's no accurate record of what happened to the badge. It would seem, judging from the information we're getting from Trinidad, that at some point in time, the badge, the tugboat that was married to the badge, was switched. On March 23, 2021, EQUASIS records show that the owners of the Marlin, San Martin Group Limited, sold the Marlin to another Panamanian company, Stargard's Petroleum SE, which was registered in 2014. The Gulfstream itself does not appear in EQUASIS. For over a year, the Gulfstream remained in Astanav until February 22nd, 2022, where it is shown floating just offshore from the dry dock. After this, they don't know where it went. There are a few reasons why a vessel would not transmit AIS signals. One common reason is to obscure the origin and destination of the cargo it is transporting, though there is no conclusive evidence as to why signals from the Marlin ceased. Now, if you were perchance transporting sanctioned oil from Venezuela to anywhere who doesn't want it known that they're receiving sanctioned oil, you could understand why this thing may be a bit more secretive. The typical lifespan of a tanker is 30 years. As of 2014, the Marlin and Gulfstream would have been in service for 50 and 48 years, respectively. Now, bear in mind, this Marlin does not seem to have been the tugboat that was pushing the barge when it ran ashore locally. Tobago ID's tug and barge in oil spill. Officials in Tobago announced that they have identified a tug that is believed to have been moving the barge that later capsized, causing the national emergency. They identified this tug and they were able to see where it was moving. They believe the tug Solo Creed registered in Tanzania. So, last knowledge is this whole tug and barge business was owned by a Panamanian company. Last knowledge, they were doing some business with Venezuela and stopped sending signals for the boat. Next thing we know, a different tugboat is married to this barge now. Apparently, there was a divorce. Either a divorce or some horning going on, because a different tugboat is now married to the barge. That Marlin boat, who knows where it is? There's now the Solo Creed. And this Solo Creed is registered in Tanzania. What does Tanzania have to do with Panama, Venezuela, Trinidad, or Guyana? Dr. Reel says it's easy to go to Panama and set up a business. Well, yes, Dr. Reel, we were speaking about this also last night. When you look at the countries involved, we're talking about Panama. I don't know how many of you were paying attention a couple of years ago when there was the big scandal with the Panama Papers, where it was revealed that many high-profile people all around the world carry their money over to Panama and create shell companies and hide it over there. Panama was the home of shell companies. Panama Papers. All right, that's Panama. Trinidad and Tobago. Bubble Central. Known for its ripe corruption and its low placing in the corruption perception index. Venezuela. Need I say more? Venezuela. And the newfound oil, newfound resources of Guyana. Now, to me, even this vessel going to Guyana, I'm repeating stuff I said last night, as I pointed out. The vessel going to Guyana on its own is a suspicious thing. This vessel has oil in it. But so does Guyana. Does Guyana need oil? Okay. Does Guyana have a refinery? No, they don't. So there's no reason to carry oil over to Guyana because they don't have a refinery to refine it and they don't need oil. So someone could explain to me then, what is a boat, a barge? I don't know how full of oil it was. Nobody seems to know exactly how full of oil it is. But it evidently has quite a bit of oil because allegedly it's still leaking oil. And that oil is already trailing its way into the middle of the Caribbean Sea. So what is a barge containing this much oil doing heading to Guyana? Very suspicious on its own. What is this tugboat doing heading to Guyana? Maurice Scarlett says Guyana have nothing to do with this. It looks like he's smuggling ups that both Trinidad and Venezuela are trying to cover up. Well, according to the tracker, the tug had departed Panama in January and made a stop in Aruba. And according to the Trinidad and Tobago Coast Guard satellite images, showed the tug towing an object approaching the area around Tobago on February 4th. They were able to track the vessel into the country's territorial waters, but eventually lost radar contact with both vessels. The oil slick and capsized vessel were first spotted on February 7th. So, saying that Trinidad has something to do with this isn't necessarily obvious because, according to the information given, the tugboat left Aruba and was heading to Guyana. It had nothing to do with Trinidad and Tobago. It just so happened that it ran aground here. That's the allegation. Guyana have no oil refinery. I am aware, Edison. I am aware. Who has an oil refinery in this region? What bigger question is that, Lyndon Mac? Ask away. The Equasis database lists the owners of the tug as unknown. They show the vessel as being built in 1976, but list it under a former name of Margie V. The tug was reported sold in the summer of 2023. Tankertrackers.com has been successful in finding satellite images of the two together and identifies the tug under the alternate name of Ranger using the same IMO ID number. So this Solo Creed tug that was registered in Tanzania was named previously Margie V or Margie 5, also Ranger, and we have no idea who the owner is apparently. So this tug entered Aruba's waters, docked at Aruba, entered Trinidad waters, was heading for Guyana. All of this while nobody knows who the owner is. Why hasn't the Coast Guard intercepted the vessel? Which vessel would that be, Lyndon Mac? As long as it enters Trinidad and Tobago waters, it should have been stopped and intercepted. Oh, well, I don't know if they had a reason to intercept it. I don't know if they had reason to even be suspicious of the vessel. I am not a maritime guy, so I don't know the rules of maritime. Is it that all vessels in our waters, we are supposed to know at all times the owners of them? I may have guessed that, but apparently not. Brenzo says, who pays the captain of the vessels? Well, I suppose the owner would, which would have been an easier thing to figure out if we had the captain of the vessel in custody. If we have all this satellite and radar technology, you're telling me at no point we could have figured out where this tugboat headed to when it skate out? Because according to what they're saying here, they lost radar contact with the vessels inside Trinidad and Tobago waters. So, how are you telling me that we tracked the vessel coming into our waters, but when they reached inside our waters, we lost track of them? They were able to track the vessel into the country's territorial waters, but eventually lost radar contact with both vessels. How? Inside our waters? I would have thought if you're losing contact, it would be outside. Brent Levin says it's just not adding up to me. Neither me, bro. Neither me. The maths, and I said this last night, the maths is not mathematicking. You're not getting the mathematics. Well, not mathematics. Mathematics out of this. I don't get the mathematics. A vessel with an unknown owner carrying oil to a country without an oil refinery. Okay. Then the Coast Guard should have done their job, do an investigation. Well, investigation now, like how do you get that investigation done now, really and truly? This incident shines light on our coastal monitoring system, or lack thereof. Yes, it does. Are we afraid to say our country corrupt? No, not me at least. Tugboat masked itself from the radar while escaping. This does reveal it does reveal a bit about our lacking capability in our own maritime waters. It was never supposed to be carrying oil, it was wood and sand. And this is the point I was making to some people who speak about our recovery efforts. Now, if it is that we were expecting an oil tanker carrying tons of oil in our waters and then it crashed and all of that, we may have been prepared. But with this issue where everything seems to have been obfuscated and hidden and a little on the down low, when the boat capsized and started leaking, everyone was in the dark. No one knew what was going on. And that may have a lot to do with why it took so long to actually mobilize the cleanup activities. Lyndon, you say you're in the box to explain this?
I want to ask a quick question.
Good night, good night.
A little out of the way, but I want to know what's the difference between a journal and a bacchanalist in Trinidad and Tobago. Because I saw some backward forward taking place, which I found was totally uncalled for. And I trying to figure out what's the difference between a bacchanalist and a journalist in this country. Because if you listen to the whole press conference, you would hear he say he's not making certain accusations or saying certain things. A reporter, Miss Jackson, asked about it during the question and answer segment, and he clarified it there. So I don't know how I seen headlines with this whole trying to throw bacchanal into this whole thing, and I appear responding to erroneous statements by some bacchanalists and not journalists in this country.
Well, that's how many journalists operate on a bacchanalist level, because there's a side to journalism where you're trying to make money, so you try to stir the pot as much as possible.
So the issue with that is journalism, the credibility of journalism always comes when you have the credible sources to be able to give those answers. Most of these journalists are always lamenting off of speculation. But Nathan, let me just share this to you. Where we come to marine borders, we talk about national security, but it's literally a joke. Every ship that comes into our, what you call waters, according to maritime law, we are supposed to know where these ships are going if they have to cross over into our waters. This is security. This is why we are spending $9 billion a year. So if we are saying that for this ship that now got into Tobago Harbor, which is not even 6 nautical miles or 12 nautical miles, and the Coast Guard was not even able to intercept it, it means that they were not monitoring these ships in real time, and this is the larger issue. This is what the Minister of National Security is supposed to be addressing to the nation, so that we can have an idea, because push come to shove, that could have been bombs, and had that literally exploded, you are talking about a disastrous situation where a Coast Guard base is what you call is the vicinity of Scarborough. You have 2 bases. One base is in Scarborough, and then you have the point exactly where the ship, one of the ship is where that boat comes in, where most of the big boats comes in. And they were not even able to intercept this thing. This thing was not, it reached a point where the ship was drifting. So that literally means that when we talk about radar and monitoring, that probably could not have been happening, that is not happening. So it become a situation whereby that ship would have been inside the coral, which is less than a mile off the harbor of Scarborough. That is a dangerous position to be in. And the Minister of National Security has answers for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. If we can even begin to speak to that level, then the corruption part of it is 100 times or 1,000 times worse than we thought it is, because that literally means that the Coast Guard is not monitoring our borders in real time, and drugs, guns, and even now I to say bombs could land up on our shores without us even knowing, because the reality is nobody knows who is taking times in these command centers to monitor every vessel. We ain't talking about just aerospace. We're talking about the marine borders that deals with boats navigating through international waters versus boats entering Trinidad and Tobago waters and have to ask permission to pass. If it's this situation whereby boats are just passing and that there is no level of permission giving, then I have to conclude the fact that the Coast Guard is not monitoring Trinidad and Tobago's waters in real time, and this is probably 300 or 100 times worse than the current previous rule, because the Prime Minister stood up and said it was an issue of national security. So the Prime Minister has answers for the country. The President office has not even made one statement into this, and the head of state. So we are paying $9 billion in the national security. We are also giving money to the President's office, and in a situation where that could have been bombs that could have probably blew up and injured probably lives that is passing there, left, right, and center. The hub that we say is our prime. You know, they love to say Trinidad and Tobago. Port Spain is what you call the central. It is the capital of the country. Scarborough is our capital. So bombs could have entered our capital and blow up, and the Coast Guard would have not even known because nobody's intercepting. This is the levels of questioning that we need to happen, and I think the Parliament needs to go there now. We should be debating this thing to really have some answers. It shouldn't be left like this at all.
Correct, Linda. Lyndon Mac, everything you said there is 100% correct. It is scary. This boat was 449 feet long. That's the barge. And then a tugboat attached to it. And the owner is unknown. You're telling me a 450 plus foot vessel could be moving through our waters, as you pointed, Lyndon Mac, reach within a mile of the coast, and no Coast Guard vessel investigates or intercepts? You're telling me I could bring 500 feet of shipping vessel, stack it from the front to the back with drugs and guns, run it aground on Pigeon Point, offload it, and a week later, the Coast Guard and government might now be figuring out who I was. Well, not even who I was, who the boat was that docked. Really? That's the state? Julie June asked where the crew members from aboard the tugboat vessel. I've been asking the same thing for a while now. Ronnie Cake says, I'd like to see something. Well, jump in there, Ronnie.
Good night. I just wanted to say great point, Linda. Great points. For one, look at it like airspace, right? No aircraft is allowed to enter your airspace without your permission. You're allowed to shoot down any aircraft that enter without permission, right? How is it the sea space is not the same? It should be even worse, because literally, I think it's one of your most vulnerable positions, right, in your waters, because it's much more and anything could happen basically. So for me, I'm not even thinking, oh, they didn't see the boat, they didn't know the boat, they damn well know the boat. Who could miss the boat? So for me, it's not why it wasn't intercepted or whatever. It just wasn't because it didn't want it to be. It's who owns the boat, who's paying for it not to be seen, who's paying for it not to be stopped, who's paying for it not to ask permission, because you don't have to intercept every boat that comes into the water, right? But you do have to give permission for boats to come into your water, right? So how are we so clueless or so naive to say oh, this boat, we don't even know what happened with this boat? We do. Nobody wants to say why. We know.
Well,
well.
Ronnie, you see, that could have some deep deep roots inside there, as I was pointing out last night. If, as seems most possible, there was some kind of illegal activity going on with sanctioned oil, very likely the kind of people that run a barge full of oil up and down aren't a corner shop owner.
Well, of course not.
As I was pointing out last night, the CIA itself has been known to dabble in various illicit trades. Opium, crack cocaine, guns. Yes, the CIA has been known, not under matters of conspiracy, proven factual matters, they have traded in such. So this could even be, and it may not be, but it could even be to the level of who knows if it's a CIA badge running. And if Dr. Rowley, let's get deep inside of a conspiracy possibility here. If Dr. Rowley went over to Washington last month and spoke to the CIA, and the CIA told him, listen, right now oil from Russia a little hard to get, so we trying to balance with some stuff from Venezuela, but we don't want the world to know that we good with Venezuela, so we still sanctioning them. We doing it off the books behind the back. What we would like is for Trinidad and Tobago waters to be open for when our barge run through. You all just don't say or stop anything, just allow our barge to run through. If he got that instruction, and then some barge run through and run aground and start spilling oil, what you want the doctor to do? Remember, it is alleged the CIA dread enough to wipe out their own president. So these things could get very deep and complex. Positive, you wanted to say something there, bro?
I want to play devil's advocate tonight a little bit. How many Coast Guard boats are actually up running and functional? So let's say in the event this was picked up or indicated, do they have the resources to immediately mount a response to intercept? Because a barge can't be moving at the speed of Mr. Solo and them great race vessels. You can't be moving at that speed kind of amount of liquid. Are we so sure that they have sufficient resources? Because police just get a set of nice vehicles all well and good. But it makes no sense. Give the police the vehicles and your borders open, because you'll get more than the police could run down.
But I think we have both.
What was the problem right there? That's not even the problem. The problem is it is not meant to be caught. So even if they had 10,000 boats, none of the boats would have caught that tugboat because it was not meant to be caught.
Well, that means there's a serious issue on national security that is not just trickling down from high places. It's now to call a parasite. It's now embedded in the military. Took our oath to what we say, monitor our borders. And if that is a situation that our own men looking aside because they can get some piece of money, then that means the corruption 100 times worse, because the big boy on the paying the small man, and probably I have to allude by saying this is how guns and drugs passing through our borders every month.
Yeah.
So it's landing up in the little boy hand because somebody getting paid to look on the side.
Just quickly, before Dr. Real say something, I just want to say, allegedly, I will say allegedly, yachters have been doing this for years. Allegedly. Yachters have been bringing illegal things into probably not just our country, but every country, because yachters have like a free pass. Nobody don't go and check the boat necessarily to your passport office, and they bring their passport and say, look, I come to stay for a few days. You stamp the passport and they go their way. Nobody goes to check their boats really and truly. So for years now, this has been happening, especially allegedly in Tobago. For years, yachters have been allegedly doing this in Tobago. So it's nothing new.
I like the amount of allegedly.
I have to.
Yeah, Dr. Real.
Yeah, good night all. Trinidad and Tobago and by extension the world. First things first, Nathan, thanks for the opportunity.
Well, Lyndon mentioned maritime law, and something that jumped out at me in maritime. Do you know that every single vessel that comes into our waters has to be piloted by a local pilot? Yes. So any vessel, for every tourist ship you see docking at Tobago, Scarborough, Charlottesville, wherever, docking at Port of Spain or wherever, every single ship you see has to be met out there by a pilot. There's what you call a pilot ship, a pilot boat rather, that takes them out of the ship before they could come into anchor. Every single vessel. That is maritime law. Now, the only way a vessel will not need a pilot is if the person piloting the vessel is local or locally certified. So you see where we're going already, Nathan?
Mm-hmm.
Then, as you all rightfully said, every single vessel supposed to be stopped and checked. That is the only way you can assure security of your borders. For years and decades and generations, the U.S. has been begging and Tobago's government to establish a security border around the two islands because Trinidad is known as the transshipment drug hub of the Caribbean. The tug doesn't have to dock, Ronnie. As long as the tug is passing through our waters, for the period it is in our waters, it has to be piloted by a local or someone who has knowledge of the local waters to know which channel to use, which vessel could be passing where, that kind of thing. Radio communication will be established, that kind of thing. The port of call would establish a route. You see, it's not just as simple as saying, okay, I boat past you waters, we didn't notice. That's okay. It's not as simple as they make it look. There are maritime laws in place for a reason. Nathan, I don't know if I could take you 2020. I believe it was July, when a vessel left Paria Fuel Trading and was headed to quote-unquote Aruba. However, it was diverted into Venezuela, and then the bacchanal started because the vessel took off its GPS signal and thought that it would not be detected going into Venezuela. America made the call. Donald Trump was the president, and then they raised a hornet's nest about it. This sounds just like that. The only difference is this vessel ran too close to the shore, possibly trying to avoid that, and ran out. Or it drifted into shore and ran aground. They had some issues with it. Now, what a lot of people don't know is barges have engines, right? So a barge uses a tug to help guide it through these type of waters. But essentially, a barge has an engine of its own, so it doesn't need a tug for the entire journey. So the technical spots is where the tug usually comes in. So it's supposed to be a local tug. So we may be getting information that could be forged, falsified, or an innuendo. We'll leave it at, ladies and gentlemen.
That's sorry.
Topic. Have a good night, guys. And I like how you guys are keeping your eyes on the ball.
The scholarly pin. But what you're saying is actually making sense. I'd have to go and dig up a bit to get that surely cemented. But it makes sense that if a vessel is in local waters, you need to have local piloting, at least some local guidance. And that also makes 100% sense. Ships don't just sail the ocean willy-nilly. There are shipping lanes. You don't want to be sailing and you running into a container ship running in the same direction as you. So obviously these things have to be coordinated. And if they have to be coordinated, you would suppose that there would at least be more information than we have right now.
I think there's a lack of information for a reason.
Yeah. As Ronnie said.
Vessel ran aground. What the leader, I don't want to call titles. The leader did is try to castigate the outside stepchild Tobago. He got an opportunity to try to cast aside, but he couldn't do it. As much as he would have liked to just leave Tobago on their own, he couldn't do it. So he had to do something in spite of him didn't have issue any sort of conference with the THA head.
You know, Dr. Real.
And I support the THA head 100%.
You know, in this, when it happened, and this is a feeling I have, I don't know if this is true, but a feeling I had looking at the incident, it felt like those in authority were marking time. Like those who could actually get things done, like they were just hold. No. It had that feeling because, okay, a vessel ran aground, oil is, and all of this information that we're accumulating now felt like that was supposed to be happening the day of. But the day of, it barely was making news. People was talking like, you know, like if it's a pirogue with a pigtail bucket and some oil fall off the pirogue with the pigtail bucket. That's the kind of tone you were getting at the beginning. And then it slowly built to the point where, oh, now it's international news and everyone is asking and noting about it. You could get the feeling like this was supposed to be that level on the day it happened. And you could wonder if some people purposefully pulled it back from that level because a few days could pass and certain amounts of dust could settle far away.
Right.
And then when certain evidence is gone, there's no way to get that back. We could investigate till the cows come home. We will not find it out.
There one thing before I go. Nathan, do you find in the same way that they essentially, as we say locally, drag their feet with this? Isn't it a slight reminder of what they did with the divers? It's like the man was stuck in man was ashore having. Oh, by the way, oil was discovered in the pipe. The DNA of that oil could not be traced to any local oil, which is another question that was swept under the carpet. You didn't know that?
No.
So it's berth 6 where the incident occurred. Now, it's a pipe in the shape of a U. Where the men drowned was the part that was under the seabed, right?
Yes.
So it's in the shape of a U. On one side, they discovered oil. When they pulled the plug, part of the reason why they got sucked in is because the oil was not supposed to be there, and it was there. So it's as though oil was ejected from a vessel and went into the berth, even though it was not supposed to be, because the berth was supposed to be isolated for 30 years. So
Wait, Dr. Real, you're splitting my brain here.
No investigation was launched.
Dr. Real, my brain frying. You're telling me 30 years that berth was supposed to be out of commission, basically. But they went down and find out that as at least pretty recently, oil was being sent through.
So a berth is an area where a ship pulls up oil. So a berth is that's the first point that meets the vessel. So that's where your vessel would go to discharge its load, and it would go to recharge its new load. That's what a berth is. So it's a U-shaped pipe.
Yeah.
That connects to other pipes that goes ashore.
Yeah.
Right. So one part of the U is berth 6 and the other part is berth 7. So essentially they were working on one side and they got sucked in, and then they discovered oil on the other side. So the other side was functioning and it was disclosed. So it was being done in secrecy. Right? So secrecy, you know what?
And but it all, as somebody said, it all makes sense now. And this is something that annoys me. Like when they do the deals with Venezuela and they talk about the NDAs and the secrecy. Like, I understand business has secrecy, but when you're talking government, you're dealing at the government level. How much secrecy could you really have when you're dealing with other people's money? This isn't your money, this is my money, this is all of our money. You kind of have to tell us what we're doing. And oil in Trinidad.
You never watch Scandal?
If I never watch? What's that?
Series scandal
Yeah.
or designated survivor.
Yeah.
Let me tell you one thing before we go. What they did, right? Listen to this classic playwright theatrics. What they did, right? They did not want to rescue the men. They didn't want anybody else to go in the pipe, right? Just think about it this way. 2 days later, they recovered the bodies by flushing the pipe. Where does the evidence go? Ladies and gentlemen, I'll be watching in the comments.
I honestly, you just reveal a lot to me because I did not know all of that. So this oil, and as you pointed out, oil has DNA. You could track oil. This oil in the pipe was evidence of maybe what the reason might have been for a delay in the rescue, and also evidence of some kind of possibly, very likely, illegal trade going on. Bear in mind, as I understand, this birth was under the control of Paria. That's the state enterprise, state company, maybe running some illegal business. And and by not rescuing and flushing the system, that evidence just goes whoosh. It makes me wonder if this Solo Creed tugboat and that badge may have been to Trinidad before. And now you could wonder, because this tugboat and badge, if you're going to Ghana, I mean, I am not a ship captain. I have never sailed a ship in my life. But I would suppose if you're going to Guyana, you don't have to run so close to Tobago. But I mean, if you're coming to Trinidad, and then the thing with this is, if these matters are true, there's nearly no way we would ever find it out. The way we would find this out is in the next 60 years when the US Congress does a deep dive on the CIA's activity from 2020, they dig into it, and then you might find out that they had some information about a possibility of something. And Azad Mohammed said her last trip she running long time. Well, the Bellingcat investigation revealed that this boat has been running in between Venezuela, Panama, and the Caribbean since 2008. It was 2008, 2009. No, 2012, sorry. So since 2012, it has been in and around. If you're going to Guyana, you'd want to avoid Trinidadian waters totally. Jeez. Vibes, he says, Nathan, better say you believed. It's alleged. Well, the thing is, I could make those accusations because we aren't even making the accusations about anybody. We don't even know who we could accuse. Now, it draws what Doctor just said there, Dr. Real just said there, makes what someone was bringing up earlier on in the discussion about the meetings between our energy minister, our minister of everything, and the Venezuelan vice president. It brings those meetings in a whole new light. You say that you meet to talk about this issue and maybe to help to get some help and you know to discuss how we could have some mutual technical assistance. All right, but at the same time, if there's some kind of illegality afoot and the illegality ran aground, you would want to meet with your co-conspirators as soon as possible. Michelle asks, why is this feeling so sinister? Because if it is like that, it is sinister. It is something sinister. And that's the thing. When money and those kind of selfish missions become primary, it gets sinister real quick. Positive says, I'm wondering why they want to help now. Since the spill occurred, have the prior local issues gone silent? Well, some of them. Everyone went to a meeting right after. Stuart and Delcy was talking very productive talks. Bro, listen. What I don't know anything for sure. The only thing it seems like I know is that the official story makes no sense. The official story adds up not a bit. Not a slight bit. And with the added bits that Dr. Reel added there, especially throwing in that bit about the Paria. Listen, I thank you for that, Doctor. I thank you for giving me that bit of information, because to be honest with you, that Paria incident has struck me as always having a little more in it than many people are speaking about. When when people in the know talk about it, you get the feeling like you know, when you are a younger child and your aunties talking bacchanal, you know they're talking bacchanal, you just can't pick up the bacchanal that they're talking. That's the feeling I was getting with this Paria incident, because I'm like, okay, an accident and divers die, and you know it shouldn't happen, but the professionals, the divers are saying this doesn't make sense. The situation around it is saying this doesn't make sense. And I'm like, well, why is this incident such a big thing? I think the PM should declare this tier 3. Why hasn't he done so? Well, we may have some information as to why that might be here. It may not be in their best interest. I think we should focus on the cleanup as quickly as possible and then investigate. Well, the thing is, Azad Mohammed, we are cleaning up. Well, not we, but Tima is cleaning up. If you look at the pictures of the before and after in some of the areas that were most heavily affected, there is serious cleanup going on. Tobago is not dragging their feet on the matter. And even if Trinidad is dragging their feet, I know Tobago wouldn't be doing that because they have to live there. It's not like they're trying to just play around with this. But as Positive said, the ship is still leaking. He's waiting for the Minister of Health to shed a tear. If they really sacrifice those divers to illicit activities, this is a crime against humanity. And there have been many of those around. And it wouldn't be unheard of for a government to do that. Government sacrificing people for the greater good is what governments specialize at. Question everything the government put out there. Fact. 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 Every single thing. All right, people. All right. This was good. This was good, especially down to the end there. That's all I have for now, though. I have to go, you know, get to bed and get the host. I see the host sprung up out of sleep and is trying to move about at this incredible hour. So say a prayer for me as I go tackle the host of the show and try to get her to bed. This government is not for the people. Which government is? Assume everything is a lie as long as a politician says it. Good assumption. Thank you for being here, folks. Thank you for tuning in. This has been the Mindful Life. I hope you're educated, informed, or entertained. I am Nathan Springer. You know, I was talking about this yesterday. I'm thinking about starting a live tomorrow on Saturdays, but not really for our big people, to be honest. The live would be a mindful education live, still on this TikTok profile, but probably run it through my Mindful Education Instagram page. Yes, Luna Kid. Run it through my Mindful Education page, and we do some educational stuff, you know, not just the politics and all of that. Let's clear the palette on a Saturday and talk about some simultaneous equations and maybe a little factorization or biology or something else. Trying to behave yourself. All right, that's all I have for now. Be educated, informed, or entertained, and I will see you guys later. Peace out. I'm gone.